This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. Brought to you by Fitness World, your fitness, your way. Visit fitnessworld.ca. Today, we hear about the epic entrepreneurial story of Vitae Apparel. After her Olympic dreams were dashed, CEO Selene Dior launched her swimwear and fitness line at the age of just 18 years old. And she hustled, quickly transforming it into a 7-figure business. Now, on today's episode, Selene offers a lot of valuable advice for budding entrepreneurs and leaders. She shares why authentically connecting and listening to your community is so important for growing your business, why hustle culture should not be placed on a pedestal, the importance of exercising for the right reasons, and she opens up on how therapy transformed her approach to business. Before we get to it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. This is ATFW. You have one of the most inspirational stories, starting out as an entrepreneur at just 18 years old. But you were no stranger to athletics before you got into it. So talk to me a little bit about your early life with physical activity.
Yeah, I started to be a competitive swimmer ever since I was in grade 1. My mom threw me in the swimming pool at like 2 years old. And she's like, okay, you're going to learn how to swim. Because when she was younger, she almost drowned. And it was very traumatic for her. So she put me in swimming and I got really good at it. So I've been swimming competitively for 16 years, all the way till I was 16, 18, and had to quit because of family financial issues, couldn't afford it. So my mom put me in lifeguarding course, and then I started going through the courses and became a lifeguard at 16 and worked like part-time, full-time. But throughout my entire childhood, I, obviously swam like almost twice a day, every single day. And I also did like track and field, javelin, I did high jumping, I did a bunch of stuff. And a very active girl to begin with. So, yeah, I could never sit still.
What were your goals with swimming competitively? Because 2 times a day, I imagine you're at a higher level at that point.
Yeah, I really wanted to go to the Olympics. That was my personal goal. And my mom used to be a professional fencer for Team China. So she went through like the professional athlete life, and it didn't work out for her. So she's like, no, like you're not doing that. And so she kind of like bursted my dream bubble of being in the Olympics, but I'm glad it worked out the way it did. But my personal goal was to like go to the Olympics.
How did you deal with that burst of bubble?
Yeah, not very good, to be honest. I was 16 at the time, and you're at this rebellious age, and your mom's like, no, you can't do this, and it just like turned into this huge thing. But we work through our issues now, I think, and still work in progress. But I think at the end of the day, it, made sense, like, that I was put on this life path. I was supposed to, go to university for 1 term and, like, do this entrepreneurship thing. And if I went to the Olympics, like, we don't know what will happen. So I'm grateful that life happened that way. But at the time, definitely it was obviously, like, devastating for a 16-year-old because that was my dream. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's so hard to come, especially at that age, because I feel like so much of us is trying to figure out who the heck we are.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when that's such a big part of your identity, you're like, cool, I don't know now.
I know, yeah. So it was definitely harsh at the time. But yeah, looking back now, I think it shaped me who I am today.
Well, and you escalated very quickly from that point because, as I mentioned there, by 18, you've started a business. So let's talk about where that bridge happens from Olympic dream to starting your path in entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so after I started working as a lifeguard, I got a taste of making money. I made money beforehand, too. I, coached swimming here and there randomly. I taught piano, but it wasn't as of a full-time job as it was for lifeguarding. And at the time, lifeguard, you make quite a bit. It's a city job in Vancouver. You get paid a lot. So I was experiencing literally double the wage of what all my friends were making. And I was like saving up money. I was like going on trips by myself at 16, and I was able to afford these things. And I was like, okay, like this is a good feeling. And I kind of got addicted to working. I would even skip school to go work as a lifeguard.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so, but I kept my grades up, like it was good. But yeah, definitely I did that. And I think I just got curious on like how to make money, like what other ways can we make money? And I grew up in an entrepreneur family. My dad developed real estate when I was younger, and then the business like failed, but like watched him go through all of that throughout my childhood years. And I also watched my mom try to sell clothes and just other knickknacks online in China too. So I watched that process, and I'm familiar with it. And my uncle, which also has a very big influence in my life, is in the e-commerce space. He sells on Amazon and eBay, and he's been doing that for 12 years. So, I watched that growing up. And one summer, I bought swimwear from, I think it was from a swimwear store here locally. Like, it was fairly affordable. And then it was the summer, and I wore it once, and I was like, oh, you know what? Like, I don't like this. So then I put it on Facebook groups to sell. Back then there was no Facebook Marketplace, so I put it on the group to sell it. And then I listed it for way higher than what I bought it for. I think I bought it for $20. I'm pretty sure I listed it for $80. And I said like, yeah, I wore it once. Like, here's photos of me wearing it. I'm size medium, whatever. And then like I got so many offers. I think it's because like I took really good photos, and I put it on the group Facebook group, and people were just like, oh my God, I want it. And I got like so many offers. And so that was my first taste of like, okay, I can buy a product and sell it for more. So I did that a few more times after that, and it worked every single time. And I was like, okay, clearly like I'm pretty good at marketing in a way. Like, I can take good photos. Like, I know what people want to see. I like write the description right. Like, I describe the product, and I'm like, okay, like maybe I can test it out. And after I graduated from high school, I was working full time at the pool, saving up money for university. And I was also looking for swimwear to buy to travel around in the summer. I was looking for something that's fashionable and practical that would stay on me. And I couldn't really find anything that was fashionable. The ones that were on the market was Roxy, Speedo, Adidas, and they looked like sports bras. And I was like, that's not like appealing. And I was like, there has to be a product out there that's fashionable, but it's still functional. And I couldn't really find anything. The ones I did were super expensive. So I started sketching, designing, looking for manufacturers back home in China, and then, negotiating with them, coming out with samples. And I had the idea August 2016, and December 1st, 2016, we launched. So that's the beginning of Vitae.
I love how quickly and actionable you were too with those steps. But it makes sense when you talk about growing up with your family, and you're like, I've seen them go through this process. And with that, you probably saw, not that hustle culture is something to be glorified, but it does take a lot of effort to go from an idea to reality. And that's often the part no one ever sees.
Yeah. And I think growing up in China, it plays a huge part, because I now learned that hustle culture is not my life. And I definitely practiced the hustle culture for the first 3.5 years of running my business. Only in the last year and a half that I'm taking a step back, and I'm like, okay, hey, working and make money is not everything. And I'm focusing on my wellness, my mental health, my spiritual growth, all of that. But I feel like growing up, being in that environment, it's so competitive in China. If you don't stand up for yourself and you don't, action that quick, the opportunity is gone. That's just how, like, not to sound bad, but how cutthroat like the society environment is, because there's just, the population is so big, right? So I felt like being in that environment, going to school, high school, being so competitive with, other students, teammates or whatever, good ways and bad ways. Obviously, I learned a lot, but I think being in that environment really pushed me to be like, okay, take action. If you don't, it's gone.
Well, and I think you also believed in your why, which I'm sure moved you quickly, because you talk about the fact you obviously noticed something was missing from the market, but I know that body positivity has been a massive pillar of Vitae Apparel since the beginning. So talk to me a bit about that.
So when I quit swimming around 16, I went through drastic weight gain and weight loss, because I was not training the same amount, but I was eating the same amount, eating like 4 or 5 meals a day, and I just gained a lot of weight. And being a teenager, you go through that. You are already self-conscious about your body, the way you look, and like this girl looks like that. I wish I looked like her. And then back then is when Instagram started to kind of, become popular, and it like makes this image of what a woman should look like in society, and young girls look up to that. And so I was very self-conscious, and I remember shopping for bikinis Back then it was mainly like Victoria's Secret, you know, the big brands. And I was like, wow, like all the girls look like bikini models and I just don't look like that. Like I can't relate. Ethnicity was also a problem as well. And being Asian, I'm like, I don't know if that'll fit good on me because I don't have boobs, you know? So when I first did all the designs and the sample was good, I was planning the photo shoot and I was like, I knew from the beginning that I wanted to use real women, no photoshopping, showcase all body sizes, and then just take the photos and use real people. Like they don't even have modeling experience. I was like, I just want real people to wear my product. And so that's kind of how Vitae started. And since then we have evolved into more like technical aspects onto the website as well. For example, we have shop by model, so you can click like, I want to see like Aaliyah, she's 32D, jean size 27, she's 5'7". Okay, I'm similar to her, like I'm going to click on her and it shows you her wearing that product that you're looking for, and you can pick other models too. And it takes so much effort and time to shoot the same product on like 4 different models, but we put effort into doing that because I truly do believe that does make a difference to helping people like feel more confident and feel like, yeah, I can wear that too, you know?
Well, and we know in so many facets representation matters, but the thing that we were talking about before you even, just as you walked in this door, it's something we see really commonly now by brands, but when you were starting, it most certainly, there really wasn't representation at all.
Exactly, yeah. And yeah, I feel like nowadays a lot of brands do it because cancel culture is so prominent. If you don't have the bare minimum of like showing diversity and showing that you support different groups of people are just not going to shop from you. So we were talking earlier before we start filming that, you know, people just, they still come to us and they're like, yep, we know Vitae is like body positivity, and we really try our best to showcase that. But I think like we need to go one step further into really getting the messaging across on like how to truly be confident in yourself, whether that's through the content we put out or having, you know, certain coaches come on IG Live and talk about it to our community. I think we need to go one step further, and I want to go one step further to really make a difference in helping women all over the world become more confident rather than just showing different pictures on different models.
Well, and I know you will, because your intentions, I think, are so pure around that. And then on top of that, it's a brilliant idea because you've created a space that people feel safe and included. Yeah. And now it's really just about how do we provide more tools for people to work through something you've worked through yourself, I've worked through myself. Like I actually don't know any peers I have that haven't had moments that have made them feel like I'm not made right. And that's not okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's such a culture around that. So as your business started to blossom, talk me through kind of that first year, because you launch in December, and we have to keep in mind you're forging a path when, you know, most people just graduated high school and are like, maybe I'll take a gap year, and you're like, all right, I'm bossing it up.
Yeah, I started to prep for launch while I was going to university first term, and I remember I was super scrappy. I know a friend that was into coding, and I was like, okay, I have no idea how to make a website. And I was like, this can be your first project. And then, so he helped me make my website. And then all photographers and videographers, I had friends that were like in film school. And I was like, let's just like use the studio in your Capilano University. We'll shoot it at like off school hours and you can like rent it. And then use like my friends or people I knew or found on Instagram to model, just like real people. So first year was very scrappy, and I didn't have any expectations, and I think that's why it was successful, because I truly did it for passion, and it was just solving my own problem, and I created a product to suit other people that might run into the same issue, and then it just started like snowballing, like word of mouth. We did a lot of brand ambassador marketing program as well, and that worked really well. And I think once people like try the product on and they talk to me, because I was running the brand, they're like, okay, like this is a real brand. Like people are genuine and I value what this brand stands for. So pretty much month one, we were profitable. We started made our first batch of like inventory, the cost back. And then we started like growing more. And then word of mouth, influencer marketing, brand ambassador program, and really just being genuine on what we stand for and showing real people wearing the product on our Instagram page and whatnot, and going on there and talking about body positivity and all of that really made a difference. And so, yeah, year one, I think we did 100K right away. And so for me, I was like, oh, wow, like never thought this would turn into anything. It was literally a hobby. I would just wanted to do something for fun and, you know, like put it out into the world and see like how the world responds. And I did stop going to school second term because I was like, okay, like this kicked off. I launched it while I was doing finals.
Oh my God.
I
But
know,
of course.
crazy. And I was like, okay, like clearly like I don't love what I'm studying. So let's just take a break, like take a gap year. I'll focus on the business and then I'll also work at the pool. So I worked at the pool 5 to 1 p.m., 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the morning. And then 2 to 8 or 9, I would pack orders, do customer service, marketing, all that. And then it's like 2 full-time jobs. And I did that for a year.
Fitness World's 16 British Columbia high-value, low-cost gyms are committed to helping people reach their fitness goals, whatever those may be. Exercise and movement play a pivotal role in supporting people's overall health and wellness, and it is Fitness World's mission to provide the facilities, services, and amenities to help you achieve your fitness your way. Visit fitnessworld.ca for more information.
But it really helped me, I think, be disciplined and like prioritize things and also just like help the business grow and survive because I just went like all in right away.
Well, and I think when you hear these entrepreneurial stories, that's why it's so important because people will look at a success story and all of a sudden assumptions are made when you get there and they're like, oh, it just came easy or they had an idea. And you're like, no, this is what the reality was for an entire, like nothing. There's maybe like 1 in a million stories where all of a sudden it's poof and instant and didn't take anything. But that's not the reality. There's so much. Did you have a lot of mentors? Like you talked obviously about some of the influences you had, but growing that quickly, did you have anyone navigating that or was it trial by fire?
Yeah, I didn't have any mentors first year. I had people I could reach out to, and I feel like I didn't really fully utilize that. I was also sort of, it was weird. Like a lot of people start their own business, and the first round of sales or revenue, they like go to their friends and family, and they're like, hey, I launched this, like you should support or whatever. For some reason, maybe it was my ego, I just like didn't want to do that. I didn't want people to actually like know that I was running the brand or like how I was doing. And I didn't ask like one of my friends or family to buy. And I only asked them to share my posts like organically, like for free. And I just, I don't know why. Maybe it was ego. I was like, nope, like if it's friends buying, that's not real customer. And so I just like had this in my head, which I think like it helped for me to be more creative about marketing. Like how can I get my brand out there right out the door? And I did have mentors that are in my area that I went to ask questions for. But thinking back now, I could probably have used more mentorship and like put myself out there more and ask the questions and not be afraid. So nowadays, like if anyone like asks me a question in DM or whatever, I always respond and whatnot because I know how helpful that is. But also, I think that looking back now, because I didn't really ask like too many questions, I just learned it all by trial and error, and that's the way I learn. So I wouldn't take it back for anything.
No, I mean, it's all so much life experience, and I'm sure that there's so many skills you collected along the way that they probably help you so much as you keep going. Obviously, your business continues to grow. At what point did you decide to pivot? Because obviously you're a super well-loved fitness apparel brand, but that's not where your roots were.
Yeah. Year 2, I think we built a very strong community, and I asked our customers, like, hey, what else do you guys want to see? What would you be interested to wear or see Vitae produce or try? And a lot of people said fitness apparel. And I was like, okay, like that makes sense. I used to train in fitness apparel and swimwear. Like I know what it should feel like, it should fit. And so I started doing our first collections design and then sampling. It took like way longer because it's fitness apparel. And I think it was also way more expensive to make than swimwear. So I had to really kind of save up for like the first purchase order, and the minimum order quantity for fitness apparel was also higher. But we launched our first collection, I want to say 2019 November, and we launched it within like a few hours it sold out. And at that time.
Were you surprised, or did you have a
I was
hunch?
surprised.
Yeah.
Like, I had an idea that it was going to do well, but I didn't know that it was going to, like, sell out like that. And I had to put things on pre-order so the people could still buy if they wanted to. They just have to, like, wait longer. And, yeah, it, like, sold out right away. And I was like, okay, like, clearly this is, like, a solid idea. Like, people love it. And so I waited till people get their orders to get, like, some feedback. And then a few months later, we launched our second collection. And then I think we fully pivoted to fitness apparel right before 2020 COVID hit. And I am so grateful that I decided to pivot to that before COVID because no one was traveling or buying swimwear.
Yeah,
and
fair.
Because we had such a strong community, we always put out quality content on our platforms. Like, we did IG live workouts, we did 14-day challenges. We try to keep our community as engaged as possible through our platform. And the influencers or partnerships that we work with, we put out content. And I think that really helped us grow. And also, everyone was just shopping online because they were bored at home. So our business grew a lot. And every collection we drop, it's like sold out like within a day. It was insane. Yeah.
Tell me about the community that had grown then at that point, because obviously from launch to now in this phase, I'm sure you had exponential growth. And it's nice too, because highly engaged, you are getting this feedback from them.
Yeah. I knew building community was my number one goal when I started the brand. I love connecting with people. I love being part of a community. And I think when a community comes together and it's a good community, it has like good culture, good people, good connections, it can really change someone's life. And I started building that out pretty much since day one. We right now have over like 6,000 Facebook group members, and they're engaged, and we talk about like fitness, mental health, and all these things. And I think it's really important for a brand to really build a loyal community because, to be honest, at the end of the day, like what you sell isn't that important. Like, can someone else make the same leggings I do? Probably. Can they sell it for cheaper? Probably. You could find it on Amazon? Probably. But what makes you matter is the community and the environment that you've built for your customers. And it's something that, like, money can't buy. It's, you know, they come together and they discuss whatever topic, and it's a safe space for women all around the world to discuss whatever they want. And I think it's so crucial for a brand to have that and build that and really stick to your messaging and your community and continue to build on that and utilize them to develop your next collection or next product idea or give you feedback on certain things when you don't know because they are your core group of customers. So we have a very high return customer rate. Over 50% of the people come back and buy.
Amazing.
And it's pretty high for clothing especially, and I think it's because of our engaged community.
100%, because I think, you know, they associate the name of like Vitae as a place that they belong.
Yes, yeah.
And are accepted. And we're a society that really, I think, we want connection.
Yeah.
We want to feel
connection.
understood.
Yeah.
And it's fresh when there's somebody who's like, you feel like this, I feel like that too. But there's not always spaces
to talk. Yeah.
Right? And especially when our life is so filtered. It's like, I'm sure people, I mean, the way you come across is so lovely, but like myself, when I was working the news side, like people will make assumptions of who you are as a person based on, and it's unfortunate because all of a sudden you're like, oh, am I projecting myself out there that way? I'm not that way. I want to connect with you kind of thing. And so you do have to think about it that we have this layer, this barrier. And so if you're somebody that creates a space that breaks that down, no wonder it's people that have supported you, followed you along the way. As an entrepreneur, though, you have grown fast and furious, and I think very intelligently as well, because you've been able to scale up. But you as a person that values, obviously, health, wellness, fitness, how have you transitioned from going hustle culture and then realizing you need to make space for yourself?
Yeah. So as sad as the story is, when 2020 November, it was 3 weeks before Black Friday, I got COVID. And it was OG COVID. It was like very bad. And there was no vaccines and whatnot. And then I got COVID 3 weeks before Black Friday. And I have never been this sick in my entire life. I was always healthy. The flu goes away in like 2-3 days. Like I barely get fever, all that stuff. Because I exercise a lot and like maintain a healthy lifestyle. And then I got sick and I could like barely move. I was having high fever every day. I was in bed. I couldn't like get out of bed. My whole body hurts. I could barely breathe. And so I was literally in bed for 2 weeks, and I was like, wow, there's like more to life than like making money and running a business 24/7 and like stressing myself out to the max.
Well, and it must have been scary too, because I
Yeah.
know at that time period as well, we did not have a lot of information.
Yeah, we don't know what is going on.
Yeah. Ugh.
So that was really stressful. I think what was most stressful for me is because I knew I saw my grandparents the week before, and my whole time I was like, you know what, I'm young, like I could deal with it, like I just don't want my grandparents to get it, and no one around me got it, which, like, knock on wood, super lucky. So I just like suffered in pain for 2 weeks. There was no medication, like nothing you could do, just like pounding like tons of tea every day, soup. And I like, all you have is time to think about your life, and got out of COVID. I was still coughing for a month straight, and I was like, wow, like health is so important. And I used to go to the gym because I want to look a certain way. I'm like, I want to build a butt, I want to have abs, I want to look like this, look like that. And then after COVID, it completely woke me up and switched my mindset. I was like, there's more to life than looking a certain way or making a certain amount of money and whatnot, all these artificial things that are so surface level. So I started going to the gym because I want to be healthy, and that completely changed my mindset. I haven't really stopped going to the gym since when I got sick, whereas before I would go through periods like 6 months, go ham, don't go for 3 months, go back and like go through this cycle. And that mindset shift like really changed my way of viewing going to the gym or staying healthy. And through that, it also made me realize like how much I was working, and that like life is so short that I should, spend time doing things that I love, spending time with people that gives me energy, that I connect with. And yeah, so that really changed my mindset, and I started to get more into self-care and like taking breaks. And throughout the last year and a half, it's been such a huge transformation for me in my mental health, my spiritual, I guess like learnings, and then also my physical health. And yeah, right now I feel really good. Especially I just came back from my yoga meditation retreat that we were talking about, but I feel right now currently like really good for a few weeks now.
Yeah, like talk me through some of the elements then that you started to grab onto post-COVID that were serving you. Like what were some of the things you took part in?
Yeah, the first thing that I actually did was go back to the gym and establishing a good routine. And like, okay, I'm going to go 3 days a week at least. And even if it's 20 minutes, whatever, like I showed up for myself, and it makes me like, feel good. And then I also did meditation. I tried to do it as much as I could every day. And obviously there's days that I skipped it, but I did try my best to meditate every day. And I think that really changed my mood. It just it's grounding. Like first thing in the morning, it's grounding and it's soothing, and it puts you in a new headspace, I feel like. And a lot of people think like meditation is all about like, okay, when I meditate, there can be no thoughts. Like that's not it at all. Meditation is all about like observing those thoughts from a third person point of view and watching them go by as clouds. You probably hear that in meditation like guides all the time, but that really helped me because my brain is like going at 100 miles an hour all the time, and just being able to sit back and be like, whoa, like there's all these things going on, but I need to learn how to stay grounded and calm and centered was very impactful. It's still, I think it's a life lesson to learn, to continue practice mindfulness every day. But after I got sick, I started those two things. The third thing that I started was going to therapy. At the time, I was going through a hard time in my previous relationship, and I just couldn't quite get myself out of that cycle. And I was like, okay, I need help. Like I need to work through some of my insecurities and whatnot. And I got out of that relationship before I even went to therapy, but I still showed up, and I was like telling her everything that I've been going through in my life. And then we started talking about family, origin, childhood traumas, and all of that. And I've been doing like inner child work for over the last year and a half, like talking to my therapist, recognizing the traumatic events that happened when I was a kid and how that affects me as an adult. And in Chinese culture, going to therapy or mental health is not really a thing, and it's so taboo. And in Chinese culture, it's like, oh, you're going to therapy, like, are you sick? Like there must be something wrong with you. And growing up in that culture was definitely not helpful. And I think for me to take that step, I was just kind of like, you know what, like there's nothing to lose and I'm just going to try it and see if it works for me. And yeah, I've been going for actually almost 2 years now, coming up February, to therapy, and I've learned so much about myself that you just kind of bury or block out, right, when you were a kid. And you understand yourself so much more, how you show up the way you do, why you do certain things right now, and it just makes you such a better person for yourself, for your friends, your family, your partner, and also in business and how you show up in the world.
I appreciate so much that you say that. Like, almost makes me emotional for a second because I'm like, I haven't had anyone in the seat yet that has included that as a pillar of their wellness, and I couldn't agree. It's so important, but like taking that step isn't always easy. Like
No, it's not.
I like, full transparency, started therapy for the first time in my life in June of this year. And then I went for a bunch of sessions and then I was like, ooh, I don't know, because it's like really hard if you've not practiced being vulnerable.
Yeah.
So obviously you don't need to speak to what you're working through, but so people can understand what can be gained on that side of vulnerability. Like, talk to me through your commitment to it and why it's become a pillar of your wellness.
Yeah. I think I'm someone that works really hard on something when I'm really committed to it. And I feel like I was just in this mindset of committing to my personal growth. And I was committed to like digging out all the insecurities and like what I went through as a kid and like how that affects me, and like bouncing between like China, Canada, New Zealand, like so many different places when I was a kid. Like that does something to you. And I felt like I will say, I'll put this out there, that it was not easy. Like, I feel like, if anything, it was, like, one of the hardest, more than a year and a half of my life that I've ever been through, because you just, like, start digging these parts of yourself out and that you've never faced or knew that existed or was too afraid to face. And, like, it was so powerful. I think the first few sessions with my therapist, being there, sitting through the process of... She asked me to fill out a form. It's an inner child workshop. It was like 3 sessions and intense detailed form about like traumatic events that happened in my childhood and like how I felt and whatnot. And she brings you back to this place to relive those situations. And it was really painful during those sessions. But then the next session, she brings you back there and you sort of reparent that like 5-year-old or that 8-year-old, and you talk to your 5-year-old self and be like, hey, like, I know you went through this, I know it's not okay, but I'm here for you, like, I'm here for you now. It's like I learned so much about being there for myself, and I feel like I haven't been able to truly be as independent as I am now, because I know that I don't have to cling on to people to find support. I can show up for myself. Like, when I'm hurting or when things are being triggered in a relationship or work or in any situation, I know it's that 5-year-old or that 10-year-old like hurting inside. And I know that I now, as an adult Selene, can show up for that kid that was traumatized or like felt hurt or felt abandoned and whatnot. And it's a really hard process. And it was really hard for me for the last year and a half, because the first step of doing inner work, I feel like, is awareness. So I started becoming aware of like my patterns or things that I do. But then my mind, because I'm a fixer, I'm like, wait a sec, like, hey, we know why we're doing this. How come it's still happening? That was like the hardest like thing that I have to sit through, I think, to be there and be like, okay, we know this is happening again because it's a pattern, because, maybe when you were 5, this happened, but how come this emotion is still coming up? And then the hardest thing I had to learn was to have self-compassion and be like, it's okay that you're feeling this. Sit with your emotions. It'll pass. And in my yoga retreat that I went to a few weeks ago, something that I learned was your emotional and physical reaction to something only lasts for 90 seconds. The reason we keep feeling pain or joy or hurt or whatnot, it's because in our head we keep reliving that moment from the past, right? So it feels like it'll never end, but like physically it actually ends in 90 seconds. And just knowing that, and for me now, I try to even meditate on it. I like think through, I'm like, okay, my heart is like tightening, I can feel it. Okay, it's gonna be gone in 90 seconds. Let's just like focus on it and like be there for myself. And then like the times that it like worked for me and that I really focus on being there for myself, like 90 seconds, like you could feel it like just, just like dissolving. And it's so rewarding to watch yourself grow, which is why I like never stop therapy. Even though, I've worked through a lot of things now, I still go like every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks just to touch base and be in tune with myself. Coming with therapy, I also started doing journaling a lot. That really
Love
helps.
journaling.
Yeah. It like really helps you get your thoughts out. And my therapist also gives me like questions or prompts that I could work on myself when I'm at home journaling. So that has really helped. So yeah, I highly encourage, any sort of like therapy. And there's lots of tools out there now. If finance is an issue, there's apps out there that are cheaper. The government subsidizes if you're low income and all of that. And there are tools out there. You just have to look for it. And if you're ready to commit to it, like I can't recommend it better. Like you just show up to the world so much better. Yeah.
As I say, appreciate so much that you share that because, obviously you speak from your experience culturally, very taboo. And then even here, so much stigma, even still. We're getting better, but there still is so much stigma around it. And I think it's really important when there's someone like yourself that people can look and they're like, she's successful and she has it all together. And you very much do. But everyone has a story and everyone has experiences that they have to work through, and shoving it and suppressing it down isn't serving us at all. And then it starts to bubble up into other areas of your life with often a misunderstanding or lack of correlation as to why that's happening. So I think it's so amazing for yourself. If I want to continue in this success story, and success now means to you more than money and more than the tangible items, it is this whole sense of self and being. How has this changed your approach then in your work? Like, because you always have had a strong connection to the value and the why.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think what changed for me in the last year and a half is being more in tune with like how I show up to the team, because our company also grew and our team size grew, and I really have to learn how to be a leader and bringing some of those skills that I learned about myself and being like less reactant to people's interaction or customers' interaction or things that happen. I'm being able to stay more grounded and be like, okay, she doesn't mean it this way. She's only like having a bad day, and everyone has bad days, instead of just being like react and be like, oh, like, she must not be happy, or, like she said my product sucks or whatever, and being like personally offended. I feel like I could stay way more grounded and have way more compassion for other people because I know everyone's going through something. And that has really helped me, I think, show up as a better leader. It also really prompted me to learn how to be a better leader because of these skills that I learned to help myself grow. I like share that with a team as well. And then I also actually I worked with a life coach on how to be literally a better leader, how to listen better, how to like give feedback properly and not be offended or sound like I'm offending someone. And that really helped me. Over the last 8 months, I think, I went through a period of burnout, like very bad burnout. I lost passion for Vitae, and it really forced me to think about the way that I am doing business and how I am relaying information back to our customers, how we are designing products and whatnot. So I went through this like big, like 3-4 months of kind of depression and feeling like I'm stuck. And every day I woke up and I felt like there was like a giant rock on my chest, like for months. And I finally worked through it. And going on the trip that I was just on for 5 weeks really helped me get out of that and be in a new headspace and think about it too. But I think my goal now coming out of that 3-4 months is that I want to be excited and passionate about what I do every day. And I want to wake up and feel like I'm ready to go. Like, let's do this. Let's change the world and let's make a difference. And so, yeah, I have some new ideas on pivoting Vitae. Basically what we talked about, making it more of a wellness brand and truly putting content out there that would help people, on anxiety, on burnout, on how to deal with depression and how to meditate and show gratitude and give yourself self-compassion and self-love, and going deep into the topic as a brand, I think will be very impactful. And it aligns with my passion right now and what I really want to do and be able to share that with the world. So it definitely made me think more inwards and be like, what am I passionate about and what am I here to do, instead of just like, okay, we make 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures, like we're good. It's not about money. It's not about product. It's about like what we're doing as a brand and how that makes a difference to someone's life.
Well, and it stays such a pillar of who you are
Yeah.
at the same time, because it is about community and all those things that you just spoke to. Again, our wheelhouses that we all struggle with, and like the burnout. I mean, obviously as a business owner, I can't even imagine the level that you get to, but to
Yeah.
some degree, I think everyone's been going through this collective fatigue just from the backgrounder of
Yeah.
what we've all experienced over the
Yeah.
last couple of years, confusion and uncertainty. It's wearing on the soul. Were there any, because your retreat looked absolutely amazing. I stalked your life aggressively. But what were some of the top tools or takeaways that you got from creating that space for yourself?
The most things that I learned is gratitude and self-love and self-compassion. A story my teacher told was that, she grew up in a yogic family and she's been doing this work since she was 5, being in that environment. But she was like, even still now, one day she walked, past her mirror and she glimpsed herself in the mirror and she was like, oh, wow, like I hate my body. I hate the way I look. And then immediately another thought came to her head and she was like, you know what? Like you must be in a lot of pain in order to say that to yourself. And like sometimes we don't think that. Like we think it's okay to say all these very mean things to ourselves and judge ourselves. And like we would have never said that to our worst enemy or anyone. We would never say it out loud to another person. So why say that to yourself?
That's
right?
such a good perspective.
Right? Yeah. And like these things in the back of your head, but until someone says it out loud and you're like, oh my God, yeah, like why would I say that to myself? Like I love myself. I should like not be the person that brings myself down. And you don't see it that way until someone points it out. So that's like a repetitive topic that we talk a lot about in the retreat.
Well, lastly, before I let you go here, I just love leaving people on an inspirational nugget of wisdom. I'm sure you have many, but what's sort of a favorite quote or mantra that you live by?
It's funny. If you asked me that 2 years ago, my quote would have been get shit done. And I feel like that's so hustle culture of me back in 2019, 2020. I think right now, one quote that stuck to me recently was from this TV show called We Crash. It's about WeWork and it documented about how the whole company went down. But one quote that stuck with me was, fear is a choice. I don't know why, it just stuck to me. I was like, fear is a choice. Even when we just talked about, fearing of starting a business, fearing of taking that class, or, going on the trip, or doing this and doing that. Fear is a choice. You could choose not to be fearful of the thing.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Selene.
Thank you so much for having me.
You've just listened to All Things Fitness and Wellness, the Industry Series. This episode was brought to you by Fitness World. Your fitness, your way. New episodes of the Industry Series drop every Monday and the Celebrity Series every Wednesday. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss out on hearing from industry thought leaders and influencers. We are on a mission to help everyone live a life fit and well.